My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make these moments of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Many times, when we try to help people understand how to live in the here and now, we do so by explaining to them the future that they're creating for themselves, or that they would if they followed a particular course of action. So, if there's a child who just wants to eat junk food and doesn't want to eat the healthy stuff that mum cooks, you might hear a comment like, "If you only eat cheeseburgers, you'll get a heart attack by the time you're 30. Or, "If you only eat junk food, you'll end up weighing 200 kilos. It's a battle of every person to reconcile our actions now to the future that we'd like to have. So many times, it's hard to see the importance of the future. It's hard to value what we don't have in front of us. And one thing that we always have in front of us is the now in which we live. God also likes to get us to look to the future, of course. Not just a few decades into the future, but He wants to help us to see into an eternal future. The problem is that sometimes people perceive this as a kind of negative. It's a bit like that child who only wants to eat fast food, cheeseburgers and soft serve, or whatever it is. He hears the idea that it's not healthy for him to eat like that, but what he feels is the pain of not being allowed to gobble up a constant chain of those cheeseburgers he so loves. He doesn't really understand that he's actually happier without them, or at least without them all the time. So, when God reminds us to look to the end, sometimes people can think of the pain of not being able to do whatever they feel like, or they can fear, when they face judgment, how much bad stuff is God going to bring against them. Both are bad ways to look at the future, and God isn't a pessimist, so that's not how He wants us to see it either. So the question is, what do you feel when you hear today's gospel? Jesus said to His disciples, "Be on your guard, stay awake, because you never know when the time will come." It is like a man travelling abroad. He has gone from home and left his servants in charge, each with his own task. He has told the doorkeeper to stay awake. So stay awake, because you do not know when the master of the house is coming. Evening, midnight, cockcrow, dawn. If he comes unexpectedly, he must not find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, stay awake. Jesus, I've got to be honest. I think a lot of people on hearing this passage could feel very apprehensive about it. They could immediately set themselves to worry about the wrath that will descend upon them. But I'm even more sure that that's not the emotion you want them to have. In fact, I like this analogy a lot. If we see it as it actually is, it sounds quite cool, to be honest. I mean, the focus all too easily becomes on the fearful coming back of the master, but not on being left in charge of the master's house and all his goods. Like, the way I see it, the only thing you're asking of those servants is that they take care of your stuff. Each one has their job, and they just have to do that. It's not like there's some sort of exceptional demand to achieve an impossible task. And then, in the meantime, they get to enjoy everything you leave them. Anywhere else, this would seem awesome. In fact, it is what happens sometimes when people want to invent impossibly good situations. You can think of that show Friends, which, to be honest, was full of all the wrong material. But beyond only that, people complained about how ridiculously unrealistic it was, because of course, there they were, living in some crazy expensive apartment in downtown New York. I don't know how much these things cost, but I was told there's no way anyone working at a cafe, for example, could ever afford something like that. So they invented something where it actually belonged to an auntie and they just got to live there. But I actually prefer the example of an even more retro show. So old, in fact, that I never even watched it myself, but I knew people, my seniors, who did. And that show is called Magnum P.I. Now, the truth is, there's a reboot series from a few years ago, but I haven't watched that either, so I don't know if it's any good. Anyway, Magnum P.I. is all about this guy who lived in a mansion in Hawaii and drove a Ferrari. And to boot, he was a private investigator. But the thing is, neither the mansion nor the Ferrari was his. He just, for some reason, had to live there and kind of take care of it for some really rich guy who was overseas and never seemed to come back. I mean, that's seriously lucky. Awesome lifestyle, living in a mansion, driving a Ferrari, spending your time solving hectic crime cases. Not too much to complain about. Basically, the only proviso he had was not to trash everything he'd been lent. That's like a dream come true for us. And Jesus, I think that's why it's so easy for us to miss the point with all these things. You let us stay here in the midst of this amazing creation for a time, and the only thing you ask is simply to take care of what you give to us. That's not a bad deal, really. Now, taking care of what you give to us can mean many things, but I think that surely you must be interested in two in particular, in us taking care of our own soul, our spiritual well-being, and in us taking care of the souls around us. Now, I find myself thinking about that kid who just wants to eat cheeseburgers again. We know that he is going to enjoy life more if he doesn't only eat junk food. We know that he's missing the point, and he's going to lose out if he stays with his mind stuck in a world of cheeseburgers. It's so much the same for us, taking care of our soul and of the souls around us. We're better off. I mean, it might seem a bit of a distraction, but when I hear that phrase, be on your guard, stay awake, and then later, I say to all, stay awake, I think about another time you told someone to stay awake, when you're talking to Peter, James, and John in Gethsemane. You wanted them to stay awake because you longed for their companionship in your suffering. How much they must have been disappointed in themselves for not being with you fully in that most important of moments, even if at least they were with you physically. I'm sure that there's a lot of truth in the idea that when we stay awake, like today's gospel passage tells us, we're not merely doing our job as good servants ought to do. We're also enjoying the world in which you've left us for a time, and yet also keeping you company. Surely, if we really take all this to heart, and we genuinely are taking care of our soul as we walk through this world, we can't ever be far from you. In fact, that's probably the best way to take care of our soul, to never wander far from you. Help us to see ways to stay close to you in this world. Help us to find moments for prayer, and moments to live our lives in company with you. Perhaps, Jesus, help us to trust also, in as much as we need to, in order to know that this really is the path to peace and happiness for us. We don't want to follow the path of that kid obsessed about cheeseburgers, and just like he has to trust his mum, sometimes we need to grow in trust of you. All too often, actually, I meet people who believe in you, but aren't really convinced that following you is actually going to make them happy. They need to go back to their youth, to the youthfulness of their faith, and learn to trust, just like a child can trust their mum. Well, help us to trust like that. Help us to trust you with all the youthfulness of our faith, the faith which is the simplicity of a child of God. Our Mother Mary, lead us through our life on this earth in such a way that we always take care of our soul and of the souls of those around us. Help us to enjoy this life here that God has given us in such a way that we will also enjoy the moment when He comes to take us to Himself. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this time of prayer. I ask your assistance in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.